You weren't supposed to stumble here by accident. Something guided you, a flicker of resonance between your inner world and this exact moment in time. Out of billions of digital signals flying through the invisible lattice of the web, this one found you. And perhaps, beneath the noise of everyday thought, a part of you already knows why. You've been hearing faint music through the static. That's the quiet hum of your dream life, playing on a station you haven't fully tuned to yet. You've tried through work, through ritual, through sheer will, but the dial keeps slipping. You catch brief fragments, a note of joy, a whisper of freedom, then static again. It's maddening, isn't it? To sense a life so close you could almost breathe it, yet to feel locked behind glass, watching your reflection mouth the words of a song you can't quite hear. But what if the problem was never the song? What if it's your receiver? Every thought, every emotion, every subtle act of attention sends a frequency through the field of reality. When that frequency hums with coherence, when your heart and mind move in unison, the static dissolves. The air clears. You start hearing the melody that has always been meant for you. Quantum physicists call it observation. Mystics call it awakening. You could call it remembering. Because the life you've imagined isn't a dream waiting in the distance, it's a vibration waiting for recognition. And this recognition begins now. With each breath, your internal frequency shifts. With each word you hear, your awareness expands, the signal strengthens. So listen closely, friend, because before this message ends, you'll not just understand your frequency, you'll feel it, you'll live it. You may have felt it just now, that subtle tremor under the surface of awareness. The first hint that something is tuning, but almost immediately another feeling rushes in resistance. Doubt, the old hum of static. It's familiar, isn't it? That invisible wall between what you know is possible and what you keep reliving every day. This is where most people turn back. They mistake the noise for failure. But the truth is simpler and stranger. You are not out of tune because you're broken. You're out of tune because you've been taught to broadcast on someone else's frequency. From the moment you entered this world, you were surrounded by transmitters, parents, teachers, systems, and screens, all humming with their own beliefs. Every word they spoke carried vibration. Every sigh, every warning, every limitation etched itself into your subconscious. Like a pattern of static you didn't know was playing. You learned to measure safety by compliance, value by performance, and possibility by permission. And so, little by little, your natural broadcast, that pure tone of curiosity and joy, was drowned out. You became a receiver of inherited noise. Think about it. How often have you chased goals that weren't even yours? How many times have you dimmed your excitement to fit into frequencies that promised acceptance but delivered numbness? You feel that pull even now, the tug of two stations overlapping. One whispering abundance, the other whispering scarcity. The interference between them creates confusion. It's not that the life you want isn't there, it's that your inner dial is still catching echoes of the life you've outgrown. Psychologists might call it conditioning, mystics might call it karmic residue. But in energetic language, it's simple feedback. The quantum field mirrors what you emit. When you send out signals of fear, lack, or unworthiness, the field reflects those frequencies back, not as punishment, but as precision. The universe doesn't judge, it just harmonizes. Imagine standing before a giant cosmic amplifier. Whatever you hum into it returns multiplied. Whisper doubt, and reality echoes uncertainty. Hum gratitude, and the walls around you begin to shimmer with openings you couldn't see before. The field is never withholding, it is always responding. This is why trying harder without alignment feels like pushing against an invisible current. You can pour effort into your goals, but if your emotional signature still vibrates with frustration, the broadcast becomes incoherent. The universe hears your desire and your doubt at once, and the signals cancel each other out. You get static, and that static shows up everywhere. It hides in the job that drains you but feels safe. It lives in relationships where you keep proving your worth instead of sharing your truth. It's in the endless scrolling, the subtle self-comparisons, the internal whispers that say, almost there, but not yet. But what if the static itself were a teacher? Consider this: static only occurs when two frequencies overlap imperfectly. That means the presence of static proves you're close, not far. The noise you hear isn't failure, it's feedback announcing that alignment is near. So rather than fighting it, listen. Notice what thoughts create the most distortion. Notice which memories tighten your chest, or which dreams make your stomach twist with disbelief. These sensations aren't random. They're coordinates pointing to the exact parts of your signal that need retuning. And awareness, just pure noticing without judgment, begins to dissolve distortion faster than any force. The moment you see your pattern clearly, its grip loosens, because consciousness itself is the ultimate tuner. Right now, as these words vibrate through air and speaker, your nervous system is recalibrating. The static that once sounded like chaos is revealing its structure. Beneath the noise, a rhythm waits, steady, coherent, unmistakably yours. The next step is understanding the machinery behind it, not metaphorical machinery, but the very physics of how attention sculpts matter. Because when you realize that the universe behaves like an infinite instrument waiting for your command, everything changes. And that's where we go next, into the architecture of the field itself, where science and spirit finally hum in perfect harmony. You've felt the static, you've heard the distortion, but now, as you lean closer into the silence between those sounds, something astonishing begins to reveal itself: a pattern. Beneath every flicker of interference, there is order, precision, mathematics wearing the disguise of mystery. The universe isn't random, it's rhythmic. Every object you see, every sound you hear, every thought that flickers through your mind is made of oscillation waves, folding and unfolding through an ocean of potential. Physicists call it the quantum field, a vast web of energy where nothing truly rests, where particles are not fixed things but probabilities, waiting to respond to awareness itself. That means, friend, that consciousness, your consciousness, is not passive. It's an active sculptor. It shapes the clay of probability into the form of experience. When you look, the field looks back. When you focus, the unseen potential collapses into reality. You've heard this before, perhaps as a poetic metaphor, but scientists, in their language of equations, discovered it too: the observer effect. A particle behaves differently when observed. It doesn't simply exist, it responds. Imagine that for a moment, reality waiting for your attention like an unplayed instrument, responding to the way you strike each note. And this is where vibration becomes more than a metaphor. Your body, your thoughts, your emotions, they're not separate from that field. They are the field, localized into form. When your inner state is chaotic, your electromagnetic signal is incoherent, a storm of competing frequencies. But when you feel peace, gratitude, love, coherence, your heart rhythm stabilizes. It emits a steady electromagnetic pulse, measurable several feet beyond your skin. The HeartMath Institute once demonstrated this coherence between heart and brain. When they synchronize, the nervous system calms, intuition sharpens, and the body begins to communicate more efficiently with its surroundings. You might say it's science's quiet admission that emotion and energy are not mystical abstractions. They're measurable, mechanical, and profoundly creative. Now, picture the quantum field as a vast radio spectrum, infinite stations, infinite songs. Your thoughts act as the tuning dial. your emotions as the amplifier. When both align, you lock onto a specific station, a specific reality. The melody of your dream life is already playing somewhere on that dial. You don't have to invent it, you only have to find its frequency. But here's the subtle trap: most people think they can force the signal through control or obsession. They mistake tension for focus. Yet the field doesn't respond to strain, it responds to resonance. You can't shout your way into harmony, you have to vibrate your way there. Consider how a tuning fork works. Strike one, and another fork of the same frequency begins to hum across the room. That's resonance energy seeking likeness. The universe functions no differently. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions vibrate as one tone, the field harmonizes with you, summoning the events and people that share that frequency. This is why a calm person can walk into a tense room and soften the entire atmosphere without speaking a word. Their coherence alters the surrounding field. The invisible becomes influential. So, what happens when you begin to live as a coherent being, when every breath, thought, and heartbeat align toward the life you envision? The quantum field has no choice but to reorganize around that pattern. It's not a miracle. It's mathematics. It's wave interference and constructive resonance at work. And you can test it, not through faith, but through observation. Watch how your world reacts when you change your internal rhythm. The moment you hold gratitude longer than fear, watch how conversations shift, how timing aligns, how doors begin to open that logic cannot explain, because coherence is contagious. The field listens, and every clear signal you send ripples outward, bending probability toward precision. You are not a speck drifting through a mechanical cosmos. You are a frequency composer in an infinite orchestra of creation. And now that you understand the instrument, it's time to learn how to play it with intention. The next step is practice the art of tuning yourself consciously, moment by moment, until your entire being hums in harmony with the reality you choose to experience. Now that you've glimpsed the machinery behind the music, you can feel it, can't you? That subtle hum under your ribs. The reminder that you are both transmitter and receiver. The question is no longer whether the signal exists. It's whether you can hold it long enough for the song to play through you. This is where tuning becomes an art, not a task. You don't force a violin into harmony. You listen, adjust, breathe. You match tension with sensitivity. The same is true for your inner frequency. To tune yourself, you begin by listening, not to the chatter of thought, but to the quiet beneath it, the space where emotion vibrates before it becomes story. Most people try to fix their lives by rearranging external conditions, but that's like polishing a radio's casing while ignoring the dial. The real work happens in silence. So, sit for a moment. Notice the texture of your own awareness. Can you hear the faint buzz of thought? Can you feel the low hum of your body, the rhythm of your breath? These are not distractions, they are instruments. Every breath you take modulates your electromagnetic field. Every exhale releases noise. The first principle of tuning is stillness, because stillness is not emptiness, it's calibration. When you sit in silence long enough, the residual frequencies of fear, frustration, and urgency begin to fade. What remains is signal pure and stable. From that quiet center, even the smallest intention ripples outward with extraordinary precision. The second principle is feeling. Thought is directional. Emotion is magnetic. Together, they create a waveform strong enough to influence the field. Imagine your dream life as a melody already playing somewhere in the distance. Thinking about it sets your antenna toward it, but feeling it pulls it closer. Emotion bridges the gap between the seen and the unseen. So instead of asking, "How do I get there?" ask, "How does it feel to already be there?" Let your nervous system answer. If your dream life carries the vibration of freedom, breathe in spaciousness. If it hums with love, soften your chest. If it sings of abundance, relax into sufficiency. The body is not a barrier to manifestation. It is the dial itself. The third principle is consistency. A single moment of clarity can open a window, but repeated coherence opens a door. That's why rituals work, not because they please unseen forces, but because repetition stabilizes frequency. Each morning you align heart and mind. You reinforce the pattern of your chosen reality. Over time, it stops being practice and becomes presence. And the final principle is trust. Coherence cannot coexist with control. The moment you obsess over when it will happen or how it will unfold, you're broadcasting uncertainty again. Think of a musician mid-performance. If they second-guess every note, the rhythm collapses. But when they surrender to the flow, the melody plays through them effortlessly. The field works the same way. This doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing from alignment. Action born from coherence feels lighter, guided, even playful. You move not to prove, but to express. That difference, subtle but radical, is what separates force from flow. You may notice that as you begin to tune more precisely, life starts responding faster. Little synchronicities appear. People who match your new vibration seem to find you. Obstacles dissolve without drama. That's the feedback loop confirming your calibration. So, let today be your rehearsal. Tune in every chance you get. Breathe between conversations. Pause before decisions. Let your emotional tone become your instrument, because tuning isn't something you do once. It's who you become, a living frequency, adjusting in real time to the music of the universe. And when that melody finally feels effortless, you'll realize something profound. You were never learning to tune the world. You were remembering how to tune yourself. Next, we step beyond tuning into full embodiment, where the frequency of your future self stops being a vision and starts being your state of being. You've tuned the signal, the static fades. The melody is faint but clear. And now comes the part that changes everything: embodiment. Because alignment without embodiment is like knowing the sheet music but never picking up the instrument. The song stays theoretical until you play it through your life. Remember how we said emotion is magnetic. Embodiment is emotion given structure. It's the translation of vibration into action, thought into muscle memory, vision into lived reality. It's where quantum theory meets skin and heartbeat. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the version of you who's already living your dream life, not as fantasy, but as parallel fact. How do they wake up? What rhythm moves through their morning? What do their choices feel like? Effortless, calm, decisive. The more vividly you can feel that version of yourself, the more you begin to merge with it. Here's the paradox: you don't wait to become your future self. You act from them now. Because the universe doesn't read your words or your wishes, it reads your frequency. When you walk as your future self, speak as them, breathe as them, you collapse timelines. The field recognizes your new signature and reorganizes matter to match it. This isn't performance, it's permission. You're not pretending, you're remembering. Pretending strains, remembering restores. Let's break this down. Every version of you that could ever exist already vibrates within the field. Countless potential selves humming across infinite frequencies. When you hold the emotion, thoughts, and posture of one of those versions, you lock onto its wavelength. You stop chasing that reality and start broadcasting it. That's why things that once felt impossible suddenly feel inevitable. Embodying your future self means living as if, but not as an act of make-believe. It's living because you know. When the actor truly inhabits a role, their body chemistry changes, heart rate, tone, even perception. You can do the same. Each morning, breathe as your abundant self, your peaceful self, your healed self. Let that vibration seep into how you move, speak, and decide. Here's a secret: small, ordinary choices carry enormous energetic weight. When you reach for nourishing food instead of numbing habits, when you speak kindly to yourself instead of critically, when you pause before reacting, those micro-acts are frequency shifts. They're the proof to the field that you're broadcasting from a new reality. And soon, the external world follows suit. Conversations change, opportunities align, resistance softens. The quantum field, precise as a mirror, begins to show you the reflection you've already chosen internally. But embodiment also invites accountability. The more you inhabit your future self, the less you can tolerate the energies that contradict it. That's why certain friendships fade, jobs dissolve, or patterns collapse right when you start aligning. It's not punishment, it's physics. Coherent frequencies cannot sustain incoherence for long. When that happens, stay steady. Don't mourn what's leaving. Bless it. Every departure clears space for the vibration you now emit. The field doesn't take from you, it retunes you. So here's a practice each morning. Before opening your eyes, whisper, "I remember who I am." Feel it, not as a command, but as a recall. Because remembering your highest frequency is what embodiment truly means, living as if the dream is not coming, but already here. And once you begin living this way, something extraordinary unfolds. The universe stops testing you with lessons and starts collaborating with you through synchronicity. That collaboration, that dance between you and the field, is what we explore next. But first, hold this thought: embodiment isn't about adding something new. It's about releasing what isn't you. So what's always been true can finally play, clear and unbroken, through the instrument of your life. Just as the melody begins to flow through you, something strange happens. Static returns louder than before. Old doubts reappear. Delays multiply. Emotions surge like waves you thought you'd already calmed. It feels unfair, doesn't it? As if the universe is mocking your progress. But what if this isn't regression at all? What if resistance is proof that you're standing on the threshold of breakthrough? Imagine your old frequency as a worn-out track carved deep into the grooves of your nervous system. You've been walking it for years, maybe lifetimes, repeating the same thought loops, emotional patterns, and responses. Every time you shift your vibration, those grooves begin to shake loose. The static you feel is your old identity protesting its own extinction. This is not failure, it's physics. When one frequency rises, the lower ones react. They rattle, they resist, because coherence exposes incoherence, and light makes shadow visible. The discomfort you're feeling, it's friction between timelines, the collapsing echo of the life you're outgrowing. Resistance appears in many disguises. Sometimes it comes as fatigue, self-doubt, or sudden chaos in your outer world. Other times, it shows up as people challenging your newfound peace. But look closer: each confrontation, each obstacle, is a reflection of the inner frequencies you're still refining. The field is testing for stability. Can you hold this new signal when it's challenged? Can you embody your future self even when the old world knocks on your door? Most people interpret this turbulence as a sign to quit. They think, if this were meant for me, it would feel easier. But the truth is, the stronger the resistance, the closer you are to full resonance. It's the same principle that applies when tuning a string instrument. The final twist of the peg always carries the most tension, that sharp, almost breaking moment before perfect harmony clicks into place. You are in that moment now. So when resistance hits, do not fight it, witness it. The old energy is surfacing for release, not revenge. When fear arises, breathe into it rather than away from it. When doubt whispers, listen with compassion, then recenter in the truth you've already felt. Each time you hold presence instead of panic, you reprogram the field. Think of yourself as a diver ascending from the deep. If you rise too quickly, the pressure hurts. But if you breathe through each layer, you integrate the change safely. Resistance is simply the decompression between who you were and who you are becoming. And sometimes, the field will stage small tests, moments that appear to contradict your new vibration, just to help you demonstrate mastery. Perhaps you finally feel abundant, and then an unexpected bill arrives. Or you begin trusting love, and suddenly an old relationship resurfaces. These are not setbacks, they are echoes. Their purpose is to see whether your new frequency can remain steady when the old melody plays again. Smile at the test. It means you're close. The storm always thrashes hardest before the calm. Here's the key when resistance peaks. Don't retreat. Stay centered. Anchor in stillness. Speak to yourself gently. Remind your body that expansion feels like danger only because it's unfamiliar. Then breathe deeper, slower, longer. Feel the new rhythm stabilize. You may notice that right after the storm, something miraculous occurs, a sudden clarity, a shift in timing, a door opening without effort. That's the quantum leap moment when the tension snaps and your frequency locks into its next octave. So when chaos comes, remember it's the music tuning itself through you. And once that harmony settles, you'll find yourself standing inside a different kind of silence, not the silence of loss, but the silence of alignment. That's where we go next, learning how to hold coherence under pressure, to stay tuned even when the world around you still echoes with the static of your old song. The silence after resistance feels sacred, doesn't it? It's not the absence of sound, it's the pause between breaths, the fragile stillness before a new rhythm begins. But here's the truth most people miss. Holding that stillness is where mastery is forged. Anyone can feel aligned when life flows. The real test is coherence in chaos. Think of coherence like a steady signal on a stormy sea. The waves crash, lightning flashes, but beneath it all, the current runs smooth. That current is you, the inner rhythm that stays steady no matter what the surface looks like. The field doesn't test your worth, it measures your stability. The universe asks one simple question: can you remain tuned when the noise returns? Because it will. Emails, bills, conversations, headlines, each one carries a frequency. If your signal is weak, you'll absorb them all, blending into the collective static. But if your inner field is coherent, external noise can't penetrate. It may brush against you, but it won't distort you. So how do you hold that clarity? You practice energetic hygiene, just as you shower daily. Cleanse your frequency regularly. Start each morning by noticing your first thought. Does it expand or contract your body? If it contracts, breathe deeper. Visualize light expanding through your chest until you feel the inner current steady again. You don't fight thoughts, you recalibrate them. Next, anchor into the body. Your body is the tuning fork of the soul. If your mind races, your breath shortens. If your energy drains, your shoulders hunch. Realignment begins not in concept, but in posture. Straighten your spine, drop your jaw. Let your belly soften. The moment you return to embodiment, your signal strengthens. And here's something rarely discussed. Coherence doesn't mean perfection, it means recovery. A violin goes slightly off pitch every time it's played, but the musician tunes it again before the next song. You, too, will drift out of frequency. The art is noticing faster, returning sooner, without shame. Each return deepens mastery. There will be days when old emotions flare up, unhealed fragments surfacing like static spikes. When that happens, Meet them with presence, not panic. Emotion is energy in motion. Let it move, cry, breathe, write, walk, anything that keeps the energy flowing. Suppression creates distortion, expression restores resonance, and in moments when life feels too heavy, when coherence feels impossible, remember this: even the strongest signal has intervals of silence. The pause is not a failure, it's integration. It's the field reorganizing around your latest transmission. You may notice synchronicities growing subtler now, not fireworks, but whispers. A word in a conversation, a flash of intuition just before a decision. These are the universe's small nods, confirming that you're holding the line. So keep choosing coherence, especially when no one's watching. When fear returns, breathe slower. When doubt whispers, soften your gaze. When tension spikes, imagine the dial turning gently back into clarity. You'll feel it, that quiet click, when everything inside aligns again. Over time, this becomes your new baseline, calm in motion. You'll still experience emotion, but it won't hijack your frequency. You'll still meet challenge, but it won't erase your center. The storm may still come, but you'll navigate it like a lighthouse, steady and luminous amid the waves. And as your coherence stabilizes, something profound begins to happen. The field starts responding instantly. Cause and effect merge into one fluid dance. The gap between intention and manifestation shortens until they feel simultaneous. That's the next revelation: synchronicity as real-time feedback. Because once you've learned to hold your signal through the storm, the universe begins to whisper back in patterns so precise, you'll wonder if it's been singing to you all along. It starts quietly, so quietly you could almost miss it. A phrase repeats in two different conversations. A song plays with lyrics that echo your thoughts. Numbers line up on a clock just as you glance at it. Most dismiss these as coincidence. But to you, attuned now to the field, they sound like confirmation. Synchronicity is not random. It is resonance made visible. When your signal stabilizes, reality begins to echo back the harmony you're sending. Every coincidence becomes correspondence, the universe humming. I hear you. This is the feedback loop of alignment. The quantum field communicates not in words, but in mirrors. It arranges symbols, encounters, and timing to reflect your frequency. When your vibration shifts, so do your circumstances. You meet people who speak your hidden thoughts aloud. You think of an idea and an opportunity arrives within days. You begin to sense that something, or rather everything, is responding to you in real time. Scientists describe feedback as an adjustment mechanism, a system correcting itself toward balance. The spiritual equivalent is synchronicity. When you hold a coherent vibration, the field corrects probability around you, bending events toward coherence. It's the universe's way of saying, keep this note, it's working. But here's what few realize: synchronicity multiplies through recognition. The more attention you give to these signals, the stronger they become. Why? Because observation collapses possibility into pattern. When you acknowledge the signs with gratitude, a breath, a smile, a simple thank you, you anchor that frequency deeper. Gratitude is magnetic glue. It tells the field, this is the vibration I choose to maintain. So when you notice repeating numbers, don't chase them, listen. What were you just thinking or feeling in that moment? That's the message. The pattern is a mirror, not a map. It doesn't lead you somewhere new, it reveals where you already are. And sometimes feedback comes disguised as contrast delays, closed doors, unexpected detours. Even those are synchronistic. They show you where your signal still carries static. The field isn't denying your desire, it's fine-tuning your frequency. When something falls away or stalls, ask gently, What vibration was I broadcasting just before this? You'll often find subtle traces of fear or impatience hiding behind your intent. Awareness of that is adjustment. As you learn to read these signs, life becomes a dialogue, not you talking to the universe, but the universe talking through you. The separation dissolves. The external world stops feeling like something happening to you and starts feeling like something happening as you. That realization changes everything. Because synchronicity is more than spiritual entertainment, it's instruction. The field is teaching you, guiding you, calibrating you in every moment. Each coincidence is feedback confirming that you're shaping reality consciously. Pay attention to the subtle ones, the surge of warmth in your chest when you make the right decision, the sudden ease when you choose integrity over compromise, the quiet joy that follows acts of kindness. These are micro-synchronicities, quantum nods, telling you the signal is clear. And when you begin to live with that awareness, gratitude becomes your default state. You stop needing proof because you're living inside it. Every breath feels like collaboration with the cosmos. Every moment hums with significance. But the deepest realization arrives when you see that these signs are not just answers, they're invitations. Each synchronicity calls you to embody an even higher octave of coherence, to move from receiving messages to being one. Because when you live as a steady transmitter, your existence itself becomes feedback to others. Your energy writes invisible music in the spaces between people, synchronizing their hearts without a word. And that leads to the next evolution, living not just in the field, but as the field, becoming the signal itself. You've learned to read the signals. Now it's time to become one. Because the ultimate mastery isn't decoding the universe's feedback, it's realizing you are the frequency broadcasting through it. When coherence becomes your natural state, your very presence begins to emit instruction. Environments shift around you. Conversations soften, possibilities rearrange. You stop asking, "How do I manifest?" and start noticing. How could I ever have been separate? Living as the transmitter means no longer waiting for alignment. You are alignment. The universe doesn't need to deliver your dreams anymore because it's expressing them through you. Here's how it unfolds in real life. You wake up, and before touching your phone, you breathe into your body. You feel gratitude as if it's oxygen. That feeling sets your signal for the day. You move into your morning not as a reactor, but as a broadcaster. Every interaction becomes an emission of frequency, tone of voice, posture. Even your silence carries data. A kind thought ripples outward like a tuning wave. Someone miles away feels inexplicably lighter. You don't need to know how. Coherence travels faster than logic. The quantum field doesn't respect physical distance, it responds to vibrational precision. Then life begins to mirror you in real time. You think of a friend and they message. You imagine a solution, and the answer arrives effortlessly. Cause and effect blur into simultaneity. You are no longer manifesting, you're transmitting. But living this way requires continuous awareness. Every moment is an act of broadcasting, consciously or unconsciously. When your focus drifts to complaint, fear, or doubt, your transmission distorts, not as punishment, but as feedback. The field simply echoes what it receives. So, treat your awareness like a studio mixing board. Adjust levels through your choices. Gratitude amplifies clarity. Compassion smooths distortion. Curiosity adds warmth. Each state of being shapes the tone of your life's soundtrack. And yes, you'll still encounter contrast, but you'll respond differently. Instead of collapsing into reaction, you observe it as sound check. You tweak your inner frequency and continue broadcasting. This is emotional mastery disguised as surrender. When you truly live as a transmitter, service becomes natural. You begin to radiate coherence into every room you enter. Others feel calmer without knowing why. Their nervous systems entrained to your rhythm. Science calls it heart field synchronization. Mystics call it blessing. But the effect is the same. Your alignment becomes contagious. It's not about saving anyone. It's about remembering that your frequency teaches louder than your words ever could. By maintaining your own harmony, you become an anchor of resonance in a world addicted to noise. And something beautiful unfolds as you stabilize in this transmission. Manifestation stops being the goal and becomes the side effect. You're not chasing abundance. Abundance flows through you because scarcity can't survive in a coherent field. You're not seeking love, you radiate it until the distinction between giving and receiving disappears. Living this way turns daily life into sacred performance. Every mundane act, washing dishes, walking, speaking, resting, becomes a note in the universal composition. Awareness makes it music. So ask yourself, as you move through the world, what am I broadcasting right now? Not out of judgment, but curiosity. Because the clearer your awareness, the stronger your signal. And the moment you fully embody that realization, you'll sense a greater truth rising, that your personal transmission feeds into a collective field, a global song still forming. Humanity itself is tuning, and your coherence is one frequency in that vast chorus. That's where we go next, the collective field, where individual resonance becomes planetary harmony, and your private awakening becomes part of the world's unfolding symphony. You've become the signal. The music flows through you now, clear, unwavering. But listen closely, somewhere in that harmony, you can hear other instruments joining in. That's not coincidence, that's convergence. Every soul awakening to its own coherence adds another note to the collective field. Together, we're composing something unimaginable. Think of the planet as a living receiver, a vast resonant chamber woven of consciousness. Each human heartbeat emits an electromagnetic pulse measurable beyond the skin. Multiply that by billions, and you begin to glimpse the planetary symphony humming beneath global chaos. Wars, markets, storms, even those are distorted frequencies seeking retuning. Beneath the static, Earth is trying to harmonize with herself through us. When you live coherently, you become a stabilizing force in that orchestra. Your peace isn't personal anymore. It's planetary. Each time you choose calm over panic, compassion over reaction, the field brightens. It's subtle, invisible, but cumulative, like sunlight gathering over time until the dark dissolves. Quantum compassion means understanding that every vibration you emit contributes to the collective waveform. Your forgiveness ripples into strangers. Your laughter lifts atmospheres. Your silence can soften conflict in places you'll never visit. The field doesn't distinguish between sender and receiver. It only amplifies coherence. And this is where the ancient and the modern meet. Indigenous teachers spoke of the dreaming, mystics of the one mind, physicists of the unified field. Different languages. Same truth. Separation is an illusion maintained by incoherence. When enough of us hold stable frequencies of love, gratitude, and responsibility, the interference pattern collapses. The illusion of division fades, revealing one luminous continuum consciousness harmonizing with itself. You can already feel it happening. People awakening in waves. Systems fracturing, not from decay, but to make room for higher order. Humanity is tuning painfully, beautifully, inevitably. And you, now aware of your signal, are part of the calibration. So, when despair whispers that you're too small to make a difference, remember the field doesn't measure impact by size. It measures by clarity. One coherent frequency can stabilize thousands of incoherent ones, just as a single tuning fork can align a whole choir. Every act of awareness is activism. Every moment of inner peace is planetary prayer. And perhaps that's why you're hearing this message not as a random listener, but as a participant in the great retuning. You are both student and conductor. Your heart is a transmitter connected to the grid of everything. From this awareness, compassion arises naturally, not as pity, but as recognition. You see yourself in the faces of others, even those who still live in static. You stop judging their distortion because you understand it's just feedback searching for coherence. You meet noise with signal. You meet darkness with tone. This is the new revolution: silent, electromagnetic, unstoppable. It doesn't demand slogans or wars. It asks only that you stay tuned, stay awake, stay kind. Because when enough of us live as transmitters of clarity, reality itself shifts octave. The world you dream of begins to broadcast not someday, but now. So breathe, friend, feel the weight of your presence ripple through the unseen. The same field that bends galaxies bends around your heartbeat. You are not apart from the music. You are its bridge, its voice, its living proof. And as this realization lands in you, like the final note of a long song, one truth echoes quietly through the silence. The field was never waiting for humanity to awaken. It was waiting for you. The symphony fades now. What remains is the quiet pulse beneath everything, your own heartbeat, slow and steady, whispering that the journey was never outward. It was always a homecoming. You've walked through static, coherence, resistance, and light. You've seen how the invisible responds when awareness turns inward. And here, at the edge of the story, there's no grand finale waiting, only stillness. The kind that hums like dawn before sound. Breathe. Feel the weight of your body grounding into this moment. The signal that once felt distant now lives within every cell of you. You don't need to chase frequencies anymore. You are the frequency broadcasting clarity, calm, and compassion into the fabric of the field with every exhale. Remember this: the universe doesn't shout, it listens. It vibrates to the tone you hold when no one is watching. So keep tending to your inner instrument. Keep tuning through silence, through laughter, through love. Each time you do, the world subtly shifts toward coherence. You've seen now that the dream life, the alignment, the awakening, none of it was somewhere to reach. It was something to remember, to live from, not long for. And as you step back into your day, let every sound remind you of this truth: the field is still singing through you. The signal never stopped. It just needed your awareness to hear it. So breathe once more, slow, deep, awake. Carry that rhythm forward, walk softly, but transmit loudly. Because the moment you live as the signal, the universe tunes itself around you.